Hello and welcome. For those of you that have been watching my channel for a while, you might have noticed that it's been quite a while since my last video upload, and there is a good reason for that, which I'll get into in just a moment. But first of all, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Chris Darnell. Thanks for clicking on the video. Thanks for being here. The purpose of today's video is twofold. First, I wanted to give a little bit of an update, explain where I've been, what's going on in my life. A lot has happened. I have lots to talk about, a lot more than I have time for in one video. Don't worry, it's all good stuff, nothing bad. But then secondly, and arguably more importantly, I need to introduce you to a new to me camera, which I've been sitting on for a little bit, and that is the 2:3 aspect ratio 6:9 Graflex. It shoots 120 roll film, is a medium format camera, and is more commonly known as a baby Graflex. This camera was gifted to me by a longtime viewer of the channel, Tim. Thank you so much for sending this to me. I can't tell you how grateful I am for this. It's very generous of you, and thank you. So everybody go thank Tim in the comments for this. It's a very, very nice gift. Tim actually sent this camera to me quite a while ago, but part of the deal was I had to come up with my own roll film back for it. And if you saw the videos from my last Iceland, Greenland trip, you know that I actually already have a 6:9 Horseman. And I thought maybe one of those Horseman film backs would fit this Graflex. But wouldn't you know it, a Graflock compatible back from Horseman does not fit on a baby Graflex. Who'd have thunk? So after many delays, I managed to find an actual Graflex 6:9 film back for it. I only have one, and I have yet to shoot either the camera or that film back yet. So hopefully they work. I'm sure the camera is just fine, but I'm not sure about my film back. I haven't tried that yet. So that's the goal today, is to shoot the obligatory first roll of film through the Graflex. Take you along with me. There certainly won't be a deep dive. It'll just be more like a first impressions thing. It's my first time shooting through it, so I'm not by any means an expert on this camera system. And then I'll take it home, I'll hand develop it at home myself, and then run it through the scanner so that I can show you the images. I'm just here in Salt Lake, close to home. I'm on the edge of the Great Salt Lake, actually. Way off in the distance, you can see the water. But it's just a nice open spot to have to myself. Be able to ramble to the camera, run around looking for compositions. It's broad daylight, which is kind of the most genuine test of light leaks that I can think of, being out here shooting directly in sunlight. I'm going to put a roll of trAintracks 400 speed black and white negative film in the camera. There are some cloud interest in the sky, but there's lots of blue still, so I'm going to try running a red filter through some of these to get some darkened sky. So all folded up, it's a really nice compact system. I'm really impressed by how small they can make this camera fold up. And there are a couple sacrifices they made in order to make that happen. There's a nice button on the top underneath the leatherette that you press to open the bed. And it folds down and clicks into place nice and solid. And then there is a locking mechanism that holds the front standard. You can pull that out, lock it into place. There's a couple stops in the bed here where the front standard locks into, set appropriately for whatever focal length you're running. Tim was kind enough to send a 103mm lens along with this one, so that's what I'm shooting. It is a Graflex lens as well, and it is a 4.5 maximum aperture, so nice and bright on the ground glass. This is the only lens I have for this camera right now, which is totally fine, because that's actually a really nice and appropriate focal length for 6:9, I've found. It's not too wide, not too tight, but it seems to work pretty well.
6:9 medium format is the same 2:3 aspect ratio as 35mm full frame. That makes the 35mm equivalence calculation really straightforward. The crop factor of 6:9 is 0.43, which gives this Graflex Trioptar f4.5 lens a 35mm equivalent of 44mm.
So as far as life updates go, so it's actually pretty simple. A year and a half ago, I made the decision to go back to school to finish my bachelor's degree in computer science. So last summer, a year ago now, I began taking classes towards accomplishing that goal. It was a tough decision. It's something I wish I would have done a long, long time ago, but there's not much I can do about it now, but just get it done. So here we are. Now, I'm just one of those people that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 100%. That's just the way I am. I've always been that way. So I didn't want to stretch out school and make it take forever, so I enrolled full-time. So I did the summer semester, I did fall, and then spring, and now I'm on summer again with no breaks. And I've been going full steam ahead, full-time school and full-time work. And as you can imagine, time starts to run short. I got behind on some things started to stack up on me, and something had to give. And unfortunately, that was the YouTube channel. Now, I said before that I'm not going anywhere. That's still the case. I'm fully dedicated to this channel, and I plan to continue doing videos for a long time, as long as everybody keeps watching them. It's just that for right now, while I finish this school thing, the schedule's gonna have to be a little hectic. I'm gonna have to fill in videos whenever I get a chance and I have time and an opening to work on them. I do have plenty of videos. I've got a lot of content filmed. The trouble is, editing it is what takes so long, is getting the edits done. And that's the part that I just have really dropped the ball on, haven't been able to keep up with. So this school thing's been going on for a while now, and the reason for the break now, as opposed to a year and a half ago when I started, is because last semester was one of the most difficult semester I've had yet. I'm kind of an idiot, and I scheduled myself a full course load of 17 credit hours, which is more than full time for students that are doing nothing but school, but then I was working a full-time job on top of that. So yeah, I was drowning in workload. I was barely able to keep my head above water just in daily life, let alone get video edited. That semester's over now. Fortunately, the course load's a little lighter, so that's why this video is out now, because I have more time. And I'm hoping the worst of it's over for at least the next few months, so the releases will still be a little sporadic, but it shouldn't be so long in between. The last 6 months was actually way longer than I had ever planned on taking a break, but you know how it is. It's just life getting in the way. So that's really been the big life-changing update. That's it. Nothing terrible, of course. It's all good stuff. So I appreciate you hanging in there, putting up with me, being patient, and sticking around. For my Patreon patrons, thank you so much for all your contributions, past and present patrons. I can't tell you how much that means to me that you were willing to help support me in my endeavors to make content and do photographs and whatnot, shenanigans. But if you do feel so inclined to either pause or cancel your contributions, I completely understand and I encourage you to do that. But with all of that out of the way, let's shoot this camera. Let's get some photography done.
I have quite a lot to talk about on the channel in the coming videos. Epic Southwestern road trips, trying my hand at another photography genre, a large format backpacking trip, and multiple new camera systems, this baby Graflex being just one of them. I'll leave the others as a surprise, but I promise it'll be worth the wait.
So what I'm thinking for this first shot is I'm kind of up on this mound here. It's looking out across the dry lake bed here, looking straight towards Antelope Island. There's a bunch of blue sky and cloud, wispy cloud, interesting stuff above it. I'm going to try to use a red filter to darken that sky down, add some more contrast in it with the clouds. But I think this will work more as a vertical composition than a horizontal. Unfortunately, the little Graflex here does not have a rotating film back, but all is not lost because it does have a 1/4-20 on the side here. So what you can do, take that off, and I've put a Arca Swiss plate on the side here, and you can actually just rotate it, which may look a little funny, but you can totally focus just like that. The only problem with doing this is the camera does not have front swing. So because I'm on the side here now, if I wanted to tilt the lens, I'd need to use swing since it's 90 degrees. But I don't see that it has an adjustment on the front. Either that or it's too complicated for me, I'm too dumb. But it does have all the other movements. It has front shift, it has front tilt, it has front rise, just not swing that I can tell anyway. So basically what that means is my foreground is going to be slightly softer because I can't swing to grab the foreground here. Fortunately, it's so bright out here, I haven't even needed a dark cloth to compose. This little shroud's been plenty. But this does come off so that you can get it out of the way. And then I can use my loop on the ground glass to get a critical focus. Just something about like that. Now I can stop the lens down somewhere around my taking aperture, which would be about f/16, and that will push the foreground a little soft, but that depth of field should get most of it. To be totally honest, I'm not out here to make portfolio pieces. I'm really just trying to test the camera, so it's okay if the foreground's a little soft. Plus, with a little bit of breeze going on here too, the grasses are moving just a little bit, so there would be a little bit of motion blur anyway. But I think it should be a pretty reasonably nice photograph. Right now there's some light, there's some dapple light with some clouds going by that's hitting the mountain, so I'm going to try to hurry up and shoot this. Shade is in short supply out here by the Great Salt Lake. Let me tell you what, it is hot and sunny. So near as I could tell, it was this flange right here on the Horseman back that didn't mount to the Graflex. And I think it may just be this camera model, I'm not sure. But the hardware that comes in here and grips on the edge of this Graflock flange did not work on my Horseman. It was too thick. So for whatever reason, this Graflex back is actually thinner right here and is more compatible with that hardware. But it's pretty simple, straightforward. Film back. 6x9 format gives you 8 shots on a roll of 120. There's a clasp on the side to open it up. There is a light seal in the corner here, which is kind of gone on this one. But it looks like the light trap is able to, I'm hoping it's able to stay light tight. We're going to find out. But then the insert comes out, and that's where your film goes. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do a roll of trAintracks 400 speed. Black and white negative film. So first is the empty spool on the take-up. Goes on here. Something to work on here. I like to take the sticker all the way off as much as I can so that it doesn't get deposited inside the film back. And then it's pretty straightforward. Film cartridge goes in, and then wind the film around with the paper towards the back into the take-up spool. And then on this film back, there is an arrow. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. There's a white arrow on the back of the film back in here. And that should go line up with the arrows on the paper backing. Close it up. Turn the little latch here to start the frame counter. Wind all the way to frame 1. And we're good to go. In order to put the back on, you have to collapse the hood. 2 hooks that you press to take the entire ground glass off. The film back goes in its place. Then the locks on the camera hold it in place. We're good to go. Don't forget to shut the tree view of your lens before you pull the dark slide. Done that before. The shutter on this lens is interesting. It cocks itself when you hit the cable release. Interesting design, so you don't have to cock the shutter like you do on most large format cameras. I'm going to go with a shutter speed of around 2/50th of a second, 250th of a second, because it's broad daylight. F16. And just wait for some of that dappled light again. Pull the dark slide. Makes a good lens shade too, as long as you're not in the frame. There's a hang glider out there too. It could be an interesting detail. There we go. Press the release, advance the frame. Ready for frame 2. I try to remember to do that before I pack down and walk away so that you don't accidentally double expose.
Seems one of the, let's call them features, of some rolls I hand develop in my Patterson tank are uneven development at the very edges of the frame, such as the top left of this image, which I'm sure has to do with the way I'm processing it. Maybe I'm not agitated enough or something, but leave me a comment if you have any ideas on how to avoid it. That hang glider I mentioned, which was actually a paraglider, did actually make it into the frame, but it's such a small detail it hardly adds anything to the image.
And then of course the thing I forgot to do while I was sitting there talking to the camera was to add the red filter. So this doesn't fit on the front of that lens. It's really, really small, itty bitty little threads on there, so that won't work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hold it right up to the lens. Pull the dark slide, put that in front of the lens. There we go. Go ahead and advance the next frame. So that's 2 out of 8 exposures.
Yep, gotta love that red 25 filter. This is much more like what I had in mind. The light on the mountain is a lot better in this shot as well. The red filter rejects blues and cyans mostly, which of course is why the sky and the grass turned out a little bit darker in this image. This look may not be to everyone's taste, but these high contrast, surreal looking images are what I like about black and white photography the most.
Well, it's certainly nice to have that shot in the bag. Haven't been out shooting in quite a while, so it's kind of nice to just be out exposing some film on pretty much anything. But now I think it's time to pack it up. Been standing out here in the sun for quite a while, so I'm going to head back towards the car to get myself a drink and then drive down the road and see if I can pick out another composition. Now, what self-respecting photographer could just walk past mud cracks with a big rock in the middle of it? Not me, not me. In this case, it's just a chunk of concrete, but it doesn't matter. It still looks cool. Biggest challenge here is making sure that my tripod shadow isn't in the way, because the sun's directly behind me and the angle I want to shoot this at, it's kind of a problem. If I want to get rid of that, I need to change my frame. Looks like I'll be able to do. One of my favorite conveniences about this camera, not only is it already a really small unit, but then the little 103mm lens that came with it fits inside the camera body when it's folded up, so you don't have to carry that separately. The Horseman 6x9 I have isn't that way. You can't fold it up with the lens in it. This one you can. Now, of course, I only have the one lens, just the 103mm Graflex lens that came with it, so I don't know about the other ones, but this one does fold up in there nicely.
Gotta love a good mud crack shot. Maybe this could be better with a natural looking rounder boulder. Nah, I don't care. I think it still looks cool.
So the key thing here is try to get the name of this boat, open space, in between the barbed wire to where it's legible. Took a little bit of finagling to get the tripod in just the right spot, because it does run on a diagonal across the frame. So kind of hard to get it perfectly isolated in there, but I think I got it to where it's legible anyway. This one's got quite a bit of blue sky in it too, so I'm going to go with the red filter. Try to darken that down. That takes away 2 stops. So I have to compensate for that in exposure. Again, I'll just hold it up there. Make sure my fingers are out of the frame. There we go. Sorry about all the traffic noise. I am right next to the interstate. So that's 5 frames. 3 to go.
I'm not sure if it's just the words empty space in a composition that's kind of chaos. I kind of like this one.
Might not have the best lens for this shot. This should work. We got these tanker cars here that are lined up on the track. A couple spots are alternating black, white, black, white. And what I'm doing right here is I got the front end of a white car with the back end of a black car. I've kind of framed in just on the rear wheels of the first car and the front wheels of the next one, right where the coupling, right in the middle of the frame. There's just a little bit of green grass in the foreground. It's kind of cool. But the background, there's an embankment that goes up behind this composition and then it goes into stark blue sky. Not sure I really dig that, but the rest of it's pretty cool. This is a pretty common subject for me. It's really accessible, it's just right off the side of the road. I was actually hoping there'd be box cars, because usually there are, and they're a little more interesting. The tanker cars will work too. Since it's black and white, none of the color matters anyway, it's all about tones. But since I got blue sky, you know what that means. Red 25 filter. Tricky thing with this is trying to remember to compensate for filter factor. So on a red 25, it's typically 2 stops. So whatever your metered exposure is, you have to add 2 stops of light. The red 25. In this case, that's going to put me about 1/80 f11. Just hold that there. That's all there is to it. So that was 6 frames, 2 left. I know at least one subject I'm definitely going to shoot one of the frames on. And then we'll see about the last one. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. Sure we'll find something.
The sky didn't actually go as dark as I had hoped in this image. And that's because the sky isn't a uniform shade of blue. It's actually a little bit brighter towards the horizon, if you've ever noticed. And the effect of the red 25 filter doesn't come across quite as strong.
This camera is definitely really fast and easy to set up and tear down. Once the shot's done, you got this release lever here. Allows you to move the front standard. Just push that back, lock it in. These 2 arms are spring loaded, so you just press down and it releases them. You can drop the bed, or if you press them down and let it come up, that closes the camera. Really simple, elegant design. So this shot is looking out off of a bridge that goes over some train tracks. Just trying to look straight down the center track as best as I can. May not be perfect this way or that, but it's pretty close. Sorry about the traffic noise, I am on a bridge. But this image is really about the lead-in lines on the rail tracks down below. And then mid-foreground, I guess, whatever. But it does lead up into, there's some like industrial stuff up here. Those who are familiar with Salt Lake, this is Kennecott's property that's in the background here. But there is a nice pointy mountain in the background. It helps kind of anchor the background. There's a bunch of nesting birds down here somewhere. I don't know what it is, but every time I walk up this bridge, they start swarming in the air. I must think be concerned I'm a threat to them or something. But it usually takes them a couple minutes to get used to me and then they chill out. So I'm kind of waiting out here to see if they'll stop flying through my frame. Because my shutter speeds won't be fast enough to freeze their motion. Speaking of that, with the red 25 filter, that's going to put me about 1/80 f11. I guess I'm just super interesting or something, because I'm just getting swarmed by birds, which is usually pretty cool, but not when they're moving through my frame really fast. My tripod is pretty precariously placed here, using my rock grabber feet on my tripod here to grab some bolts on the side to keep the tripod so it's close to the edge so I can see over instead of having this guardrail in my foreground. The light's getting nice and low too now. It's probably about half hour from sundown. So I'm getting some really nice highlights on these mountains in the background. So I'm hoping that contrast looks good on the black and white film. So I was able to sneak one quick shot in here where I had a little bit of a break in the birds. Hopefully that worked out. There might still be 1 or 2 in the frame, but as long as it isn't a whole swarm of them, should be okay.
There's my light leak I was looking for. Fortunately, this one has a really straightforward explanation. If we take a look back at the footage of when I was setting this frame up, we can see the sun is really low on the horizon and shining directly into the slot where the dark slide goes. Most likely what happened is that a ray of sunlight was able to sneak past the light trap as I was pulling the dark slide in and out. This failure mode isn't really all that uncommon, and it's not something I'm actually too worried about, because best practice would be to avoid this situation, either by not orienting the dark slide straight at the sun like this, or by covering it with your dark cloth or something while you're exposing.
So the sun had dropped behind a cloud that was off on the horizon here, but now it is below that. Just setting some really beautiful golden light in right now. But I gotta hurry, because it's not gonna last long. So I'm working on this shot with this old maintenance shed, kind of buried in some grasses in here. It's kind of an interesting subject. We've had to back up my camera a bunch here because I'm trying to, as I've been working on this, I'm realizing I kind of want this structure that's up on the top in frame too. So I'm trying not to tilt the camera back too much. I'm actually using front rise to lift the lens up. Trying to keep vertical lines vertical for the most part, which is one of the advantages of using a view style camera. The building is beautifully lit right now, so I need to get moving and get this shot done. Granted, it's black and white negative film, so the golden color isn't going to matter so much, but the fact that the building's highlighted is going to be some really cool contrast, or interesting contrast, I should say. It should highlight the subject really well, even though it's kind of buried in all these grasses. Something about like that. No other movements, just front rise. Nothing is too terribly close to my camera where I have to like tilt to get a foreground subject. It's just kind of blades of grass, which I'm not too worried about. Don't think my shadow is going to be in the frame. You can see my Peter Pan right there. But I don't think that's in my frame, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, because I'm a dummy and I can't count, I actually have 2 frames left. I'm on my 7th frame right now. I didn't say I was going to school because I was smart. I'm going to school to get smart, okay? Now, because I'm not quite sure that my shadow is actually out of frame, I'm going to move off the side here while I shoot this. This is 1/125 at f11. And there we go.
Aside from some uneven development and a little bit of a light leak remnant from the frame before it, I actually really like this one. You can tell that the amount of front rise I used was pushing the edges of my image circle from the vignetting in the top corners. I'm not too bothered by it on this image, but it is good to know to watch for it.
That's all she wrote. Had to act quick because I lost my light. The sun is down below the horizon already, and it's getting dark. So I just quick grabbed the first thing I saw, and that was the Salt Lake City sign. Again, on this one it was front rise, so I did to keep those vertical lines straight. No filters because it was already getting dark enough. That exposure is 1/15 f11. So that's the entire roll. Now I'm going to take this home and develop it. You've been seeing these photos all along, but I haven't seen them yet, so it'll be interesting to take them home, get this film strip developed, and throw them on a scanner and see what they look like.
I guess if I ever forget which way home is, well, now I'll know.
Well, that's it for this video. Just a quick one. Wanted to say hi, let you know I'm still alive, and show off the new camera. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed seeing the baby Graflex in action. I certainly had a good time shooting it. Next up, I'm working through the backlog of video content that I have that I need to get edited into videos. So the next one will be the November road trip that I did with Andy Mumford and a few other friends. So stay tuned for that. That should be up here shortly in the next few weeks. So I appreciate your patience. And until then, take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next video.